Our damaging new details tonight about former President Biden. A new book alleges serious concerns about his mental acuity.
And how his inner circle dealt with those concerns leading up to the 2024 campaign.
You know, we don't want to be indelicate, but he was too old for the job. And he was not at the peak of his mental faculties.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
There were two things in this book that I found particularly shocking. One is that Joe Biden's top staff tried to hide him from the rest of his own staff. The other striking anecdote from the book is when he did not recognize George Clooney, maybe in the top 10 most recognizable people on the planet. Joe Biden was at an event. It was actually a fundraiser organized by Clooney to help him. Clooney is someone he's known personally for well over a decade at this point, and he met him at the event, and according to witnesses in the room at the time, appeared to have no idea who George Clooney was. That's probably not a great sign in terms of one's mental faculties and one's memory.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
There were a lot of people at the time, including a lot of people around Joe Biden, his staff, his wife, so forth, who appeared to be in denial about the true state of the president. I think it's also completely fair to say that Joe Biden himself was in denial, still is, judging by his public comments. Americans had made up their minds. They had decided that he was too old, that he was not up to doing the job, and he just could not get that through his head.
I want to show you just one other thing, please. Do you mind putting it up, please? Thank you.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I think it's important to remember when we talk about last year's election that Kamala Harris was a flawed candidate, and she always would have been a flawed candidate. We saw that when she ran for the presidency against Joe Biden in 2020. She has her merits. She is a formidable debater. We saw that during the 2020 primaries. But there's a reason she did not win the nomination in 2020. So it's important when we're considering all this stuff around Joe Biden to also consider that Kamala Harris was not some generationally talented candidate who would have won if not for his intransigence. It's entirely possible that if she'd been the nominee with a year-long run-up, as opposed to the 3 months she got, that she still would have lost to Donald Trump.
Instead of an administration working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals.
People's trust in politicians is always low. But in recent years in the United States, it has been particularly low. That's part of the reason that Donald Trump was elected the first time around. So the lack of trust in politicians was at the very genesis of this whole Trump era. Without that, he would not have become president in the first place. And yes, these revelations about Joe Biden is only going to undermine people's faith in politicians more in that country.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond.
And that lays the groundwork for people like Donald Trump to take the field and to take advantage of people's distrust. So we're now in a situation in the United States where a lot of people have decided that nothing the Democrats ever say, nothing the mainstream media, I'm putting that in air quotes, ever says, can be trusted. And that creates a situation which is almost post-factual, almost post-truth, where the only person who can be believed is the outsider, is Donald Trump himself. Joe Biden helped lay the groundwork for that. He is absolutely to blame for it.
So, Musk 2028?
Oh, fuck.